I'd like to first thank for the opportunity. I'm really honored and humbled to be here and present our work in front of such an esteemed audience. This talk, we all know how AI has transformed the healthcare space or is transforming the healthcare space in the past decade. Now, in my talk, I'll like to touch upon a new concept, which is the concept of digital twin, which may be the next chapter in the way AI is transforming healthcare. And this is not about only like AI has been really good in identifying patterns from a large set of data, and it has finds its usability in screening, early diagnosis, risk stratification. But now moving forward, we are looking at a really precision and personalized healthcare, a future where healthcare will be personalized and not one size fits all. And the concept of digital twin actually fits over here. So, in the present domain, we know that healthcare is having a shift from the conventional traditional care paradigm, which is hospital centric, event centric, into a more emerging care paradigm where care will be beyond walls, like you will be having the care essentially not only at hospitals but even at your home. So, there will be continuous monitoring. Not only that, the care will be patient specific and it will be personalized and precision. Now, in this transformation, AI has played a very important role, which is mostly in screening and detection across modalities, enabling pattern recognitions and advancing towards interpretable and explainable models. But still there is a gap when we are envisioning a future which is going forward to the personalized medicine and care beyond walls. The gap is that although we understand the disease and we can predict that which percentage or which strata of person is going to have this disease maybe at an earlier time, we actually cannot define the underlying physiology, which is governs and early diagnosis. Now, what clinicians do? They already have this disease map in their mind. They see the signals, they see the report, and they already know which patient is at high risk, what therapy is to be given, when the patient needs monitoring, etc. So, just to enhance this point, just take a very basic example that an AI model has predicted ECG based risk prediction. And using explainable models, it has also predicted that why it is saying that this patient has got a high risk. Maybe it is pointing towards the QRS direction or certain ST segment elevation, which you could link to myocardial infarctions or something, heart rate variability, etc. This is important. It is identifying patterns in signals, giving you cues that why it is telling you that, and driving certain sections of patients for early detections and early diagnosis. Now, what clinicians do? They already have this disease map in their mind. They see the signals, they see the report, and they already know which patient is at high risk, what therapy is to be given, when the patient needs monitoring, etc. Then what is the problem? The problem is that the physiological state is not completely explained, and as we have heard from experienced doctors themselves, that experience actually varies. A very well experienced clinician will have his understanding at some level, whereas the juniors will not have that same level of understanding. Now, how can we bridge that experience driven and variability into the model? So, the limited ability to track, compare or simulate is another thing that we are going after. So, we know that the patient has this disease, and some doctors or some caregivers will have a standard approach to therapy. Now, what if certain else happens? How this two diseases is going to interpret? Or what if I want to simulate and see 10 years down the line or 5 years down the line what is going to happen? Or if the subject or if the patient is doing certain strenuous activities, if something else happens, how this intervention may change. So, from explainable and predictions and implicit inference, we want to go towards explicit quantitative representation of physiology, and this is where biodigital twin comes. So, what actually a digital twin is? So, digital twin has been or it is a newer concept in healthcare, but it has a sufficient footprints in other engineering domains. So, a very well known engineering domain where it has application is in aerospace, where jet engines are regularly monitored and they go for their evaluation patterns through digital twin of the engines. So basically it's a replica, it's a virtual system representation of the physical system that evolves with data and enables continuous monitoring, prediction and simulation. So a very important aspect of this digital twin is that you can do what if analysis. You have a virtual replica of a system that can be any system, any engineering system or healthcare system, and you can specifically do or ask what if analysis. What if this stress level is increased? What if the drug dosage is changed? What if there is another incident that is happening? How the physiology is going to evolve at that, and how do you take decisions at that? So, digital twin basically it represents the system, not just observations. We get the observations from multiple amount of sensors. Now, how to bind all this sensor data and to have a representation of the physiological system itself is the question. So, moving into the healthcare space. Now, how this digital twin is actually transforming this healthcare space. So, in healthcare, unlike any other engineering domain, the data modalities are sparse and incomplete. You actually don't have sensors attached to human body at every time. So, these are all mostly sparse and multimodal data. So, what we have is that from subject or patients you have streams of data. It can be imaging data, it can be time series data, it can be blood reports data, many sorts of data that comes in the respective modalities in sparse way. Then we have an AI analytics layer which tries to make certain decisions or certain pattern which tries to take from this observable type of data. And there are processes which make risk prediction, biomarker extractions, etc. Now, what the digital twin layer does is that it integrates all these things into a physiological model layer where embedding of this domain knowledge and system mechanics happen with the mechanistic model of how the physiology is going to behave when we observe such data. And once you have that model in between, many different types of applications like personalized care, simulation of what if analysis, predictions and actionable insights is possible. So, in a nutshell, digital twins integrates data, AI and physiology to create a living patient specific representation that can be observed, updated, simulated and can be guided for better decision. So, essentially from analyzing data about patient, it is going to represent the patient as a dynamic physiological system, and there lies the difference. Now, when we look at healthcare system, we all know that it's inherently a multi-scale system. So, it actually starts from the genomics and metagenomics layer like ma'am clearly explained. So, the disease actually starts at the genomics level, and for the understanding of the disease we need to look at the genomics level. From genomics there is the cellular pathway, then from cells to tissue, but the actual manifestation of the disease or progression of the disease or the action actually happens at the organ level. So, the basic entry of the digital twin point is basically the organ system modeling. Just by doing a cell level analysis or genomic level analysis will not give you the understanding of how the disease is progressing or how the organs are actually functioning or responding to that disease. Hence, the entry point of most of the digital models are via the organ digital twins, and this is where TCS is also working a lot. We are actually building a lot of this organ digital model, cardiac twin, brain twins, pulmonary twins, gut twins and musculoskeletal twins to name a few, where we actually study the effect of disease progression or how the functioning of such organs are happening, so that we can link the observation to the disease to predictions and simulations of different what if analysis. So, organ level digital twin gives us the entry point to represent this multi-scale physiology with long term integrations towards whole body system. Now, just to give you a broader example of what this organ level digital twins are doing, I will take the example of cardiac digital twin which we work upon and give you a few examples of where this cardiac digital twin have seen applications both in healthcare and in wellness. So what this cardiac digital twin is, it's basically a computational model, a biophysical computational model, which models the cardiac functionality. Now when we say cardiac functionality, we all know that its functionality itself is multidimensional. Like you can explain the functionality from initiation of the contraction of the pulses, how the ECG actually generates, to how the excitation actually travels through the tissue and brings about the complete contraction and relaxation of the heart. The contraction of the heart itself then pushes the blood through our circulatory system, which is the complete function of the heart. So basically there is an electrophysiology functioning which generates your transmembrane potential or the initiation of excitation. The excitation travels through the cardiac tissue, which brings upon the contraction. So there is an excitation contraction coupling which happens through biomechanics, which then brings upon the circulation of blood, which is the hemodynamics functionality, like how blood passes through the different phases of your cardiac cycle, how it moves from atrium to ventricle, how it then moves from aorta to the full circulatory system, that we model through the hemodynamic functionality. And closely linked with this cardiac functionality is also the airflow dynamics, because the cardiac functionality, when we go to model cardiac functionality, there is the systemic circulation as well as there is the pulmonary circulation which needs to be connected to have the complete circulation overview. So the cardiac digital twin, basically it encompasses a 3D structure which we generate from CT or MRI images, and we have built this functionality through different types of computational models. Now this model, computational model, once it is ready, it can provide or simulate the effect of different types of physical, pathological and pharmacological interventions, providing mechanistic insights into the cardiac disease progression, which gives the pathway towards personalized and predictive therapy. Now when we say disease progression, basically we have modeled the progression of various types of disease through this type of physiological modeling, like valvular disease, different types of arrhythmia, myocardial ischemia, how the genesis of this disease happens, and through the myocardial functionality, how it expresses and how actually it affects a person, that journey has been traced. So once you have this type of functional model in place, different types of application can be thought about. One is this disease progression and analysis, where medical persons can see that if the disease is progressing from moderate to severe, then what are the changes it's actually happening in the parameters that they know to be important. So we have different types of parameters, from pressure volume loops, like ejection fraction, cardiac output, which can be generated from such models, which gives them an understanding of what actually is changing inside the physiological model. These models are also used for therapy optimization, device tuning, cardiac rehabilitation, personalized therapy management, and also has been thought for virtual trial and drug screening using cardiotoxicity as the measure. So there are lots of applications, but today I will touch upon two specific. One is the use of such digital twin platform or cardiac digital twin in simulating or pre-planning surgery for congenital heart disease, and the next one is a wellness application that will come after. So this particular application, if you see, surgery planning for congenital heart disease. So congenital heart disease, mostly the affected persons are pediatric population, very small children where the heart size is very small, and they have certain structural abnormality for which they need to undergo surgery, and the surgery actually happens within the first 2 years of their life. The challenge is that because the structure is abnormal, which again gives the hemodynamics actually becomes abnormal because the structure is abnormal. So each and every heart is very unique. So for doctors, many times it becomes very difficult to perceive that what the change is, what change is happening, and how do they counteract the change. So there are surprises during the OT, and the problem here is that the child is actually in a bypass during the surgery, and the surgery time matters. Now if there is not sufficient pre-planning, what happens is that the surgery time extends due to this occasional surprises. The utility of this digital twin now comes in is that you have the structural and functional model of the child that you want to operate, and you know what is the difficulties over there. So, from MRI or CT you will get the structural, and from computational fluid dynamics elements you will get the fluid structure interaction. Now, not only the surgeon knows what the problem is, but they can have endless amount of simulation of what will be the best technique to solve this problem. Not only that, say the patient heart will grow in that age. As the patient will recover and grow, the heart muscles and heart tissues will also grow. So, the surgeon also needs to know that the patch they are putting, will that substantiate when the cardiac flow or the volume will actually increase as the patient goes up. So, there can be endless amount of simulation with the which the surgeons can do and predict that which is the best way forward, which not only enhances planning, but also supports the idea that the congenital heart disease can be tackled in a much better way. So, from static interpretation and fragmented insights that the doctors have today, this type of solution can give them a dynamic simulation for confident decision. Now, moving from a clinical case, how this cardiac digital twin can be used for performance and recovery analysis of athletes. So, this is a wellness application that we tried on New York Marathon 2024. Several participants actually gave us the data to create a digital twin of their heart, and from their data, from the digital twin of the heart, we actually predicted different latent space. Like, you have enormous number of sensors today that the athletes can wear. You have digital fitness app which gives them the heart rate, the speed, the MET levels that they are crossing. Okay. But what the sensors or the observations will not tell you is that how the cardiac energetics or how the your cardiac behavior is changing or responding to the load that you are like facing when you are running. So, for trained athletes, there is a term which is known as athlete's heart. So, athlete's heart is basically a remodeled heart because of the trainings that they undergo and the large volume of trainings and runnings that they undergo. Their heart chambers are usually enlarged. So, that is a benign condition, but many times it actually camouflages some serious condition inside. So, nowadays the marathon runners or the elite runners or the elite persons in sports, they need to have this cardiopulmonary assessment time to time to check whether their cardiorespiratory system is functioning well when stress is applied. So, what this cardiac digital twin is giving them is that it is giving them a tool in real time, and they can upload their running data and they can see whether how their cardiac energetics was, how their cardiac system is like responding to load, and most importantly how they are recovering, how is the recovery pattern, which is actually not visible only from the observations. So, from the cardiac digital twin of the runners, you are getting latent space variables like cardiac workload, energetics, hemodynamics response, the recovery rate, how the heart is actually coming back to this normalcy, and this allows for actionable outputs. Like, from these values you can generate, or coach or an expert can generate training load adaptation, which runner, how much load, how much weekly load they need to train on. If their recovery pattern is not that great, what can be suggested to make their recovery better so that their performance gets enhanced. So, from observation of the signals from sparse sensors, we are actually moving to estimated physiological state to personalized action which the athletes can take to enhance their performance. So, when I spoke about the last example, the digital twin in action was the cardiac digital twin, but we all know that the response that we observed was not only meant or not only due to the cardiac system. Basically, when a person is running or when there is an exercise or stress, different types of organ systems comes into play. Just for in this example, the cardiac twin has a very interway or a connected pathway with the respiratory twin, which actually determines the amount of oxygen intake, which in turns again is related with the musculoskeletal system, which is driving your demand. So there needs to be a closed interplay with all this system, and if you see about how the cardiac twin is maintaining your blood pressure and balance, it has to be again linked with the autonomous regulation system or the kidney system. Yeah, I'll just wrap up quickly. So what now is present is organ digital twin at individual level, but where we need to go is that simulation of different organs in together, so that we get not individualized system, but a systematic representation of the human body itself. And once we get to that system integration view, we can have a whole lot of application which can be whole body response to therapy, like drug intervention effect, recovery and resilience modeling, cross domain decision making, etc., which will become possible once all these individual organ models gets interconnected. The main challenge that we face in making this digital twin is that one is the sparse amount of data, but the next one basically is the inverse problem. So physiology inherently it's basically an inverse problem, and you know all the observation can link into one or similar type of physiology, which is not the case. So the solution is never unique, and you need to have certain a priori conditions and constraints to be put in your modeling platform, so that it becomes the inverse problem could be solved in some way. Also there is a problem of validation, like how to validate, in which context to validate. The model will always churn out data, but how do you actually link back and say that this physiology is correctly represented? So in these directions there has been to outcome the challenges. One particular direction is that integration with foundation models. So AI, particularly in recent years, very phenomenal work on foundation models is going on. So from the foundation multimodal data, if you can learn the latent space and include that in our mechanistic physiological model, it's hypothesized to give better results. So this is a research direction that the consensus is going on. And for certain global initiative, if you are interested, you can see the Physiome project, which actually speaks about that. So there is a virtual physiological human project going on across European Union countries, who are trying to build these organ level models into a full physiology model, just to enable applications like virtual testing trials and what if simulations. So we understand how data are modeled from the real world scenario, and the AI has been really a translators and tool to understand that. But what we actually need now is a way to move from this understanding to guide personalized and predictive care. And so the future of physiology driven healthcare will be enhanced through these biodigital twins, so that we can truly have continuously understandable and individualized physiology guided platform, which will enable precise and personalized care in future. So with that, I conclude my talk. Thank you.
The digital twin is constructed based on multiple people's data, or is it one person's data?
Digital twin parameter optimizations are based on multiple people's data, but when you come to personalization decision taking, one people.
So if it's multiple people's data, the input data matrix will have lots of holes depending on from whom you're collecting the data. If it's a patient, you would have MRI data. If it's a normal individual, you would only have wearables data. The MRI data would be missing most likely. So how do you take all of that into modeling?
Yeah. So for disease specific cases, or for the athlete case that we talk about, it's single person's data driving that model. So you have digital twin of that particular athlete driven by the ECG of that particular patient. The cardiac structure is from the CT MRI of that particular runner, and the personalization from echo of that particular runner. So there is no intermixing of data in that sense.
So every time you have to construct the model.
So there is a global model which takes data like the digital twin heart of the heart. The hemodynamics model is a global model. You have to tune or personalize each time when you take new data. Yeah. So that personalization is the tuning process.
So who owns the digital twin? I mean, this is an ethical minefield. I mean, given insurance and various other things. So who actually has ownership and right to use the digital twin?
Okay, right now we are not in a space to sell the digital twin as an entity, so that question maybe I don't have the answer right now. but the onus will be on the owners itself. Like if the company is providing that platform or that tool, then it will be on the company itself to